Have you ever felt as if you were trapped in a reality that simply refuses to change, even when you do everything in your power to transform it? What if I told you that there is a portal, a moment, an energetic turning point capable of breaking the cycle of repetition and activating a new reality right now? In this video, you will be guided through that portal, and as you cross it, everything shifts. Your vibration, your perception, your life. This is not just another piece of content about manifestation. It is a vibrational code, a deep activation based on the revolutionary discoveries of Jacobo Grinberg, reconnecting you with the field where all possibilities already exist. From this day forward, you will no longer manifest from the scarcity of the past, but from the fullness of your quantum self. And to seal this new frequency, comment now. My new signal is active. Dallas, this simple affirmation opens the way for the universe to reorganize everything around you. Jacobo Grinberg was a Mexican neuroscientist and researcher who dedicated his life to uncovering the mysteries of the mind, consciousness, and the hidden structure of reality. Unlike most scientists who limited their studies to the physical brain, Grinberg went beyond the traditional boundaries of science by exploring the power of perception, mental fields, and the entanglement between consciousness and matter. His studies on shamanism, neurophysiology, and altered states of perception gave birth to one of the most impactful theories of our time, the synergic theory. According to Grinberg, the reality you live in is neither objective nor immutable. It is shaped by the structure of your mental field. In other words, what you believe, feel, and expect is projected into the quantum field and returns to you as experience. This understanding opens up an extraordinary possibility. By changing your vibrational frequency, you literally change the reality you perceive. Today, many modern studies in quantum physics, epigenetics, and neuroscience confirm what Grinberg anticipated decades ago. Reality is malleable, and when you learn to access your highest version, manifestation stops being trial and error and becomes inevitable. In this video, you will experience exactly that activation. Most people believe they cannot manifest because they are doing something wrong in the present. They try new techniques, declare their desires with intensity, and chase miracle formulas. But the true blockage is almost never in the now. It lies in the past. Not in time, but in the frequency of the past that is still active within the mind. The human mind is a system of repetition. It constantly seeks to recreate what it already knows, even when it is painful. Why? Because the familiar feels safe. When you wake up each day and relive the same worries, the same emotions, the same thoughts, even unconsciously, you are reigniting the same mental circuits that keep your life exactly where it is. It's like watching the same movie while expecting a different ending. The most intriguing part is that this process is automatic. You don't consciously decide to repeat these patterns. They were installed throughout life by experiences, traumas, conditioning, and limiting beliefs inherited from family, culture, and personal frustrations. And as long as you keep thinking like yesterday, your tomorrow will be nothing more than a refined repetition of what has already been. Jacobo Grinberg called this repetitive structure the programmed perceptual field. He explained that reality is shaped by an invisible mental field, a kind of vibrational matrix where experiences are processed, interpreted, and projected as external reality. When this field is tuned to scarcity, fear, or limitation, the reality that manifests will always match that pattern. And what feeds this field? Your focus, your feeling, your identity. The biggest mistake of those who cannot manifest is not in the technique they use, but in who they believe they are while using it. A person who desires abundance but sees themselves as unlucky or a failure is sending contradictory signals to the field. They say one thing with words but transmit another with their vibration. That is why so many people feel stuck as if something invisible pulls them back every time they try to move forward. They are connected to the energy of an old version of themselves, a wounded, frustrated, disbelieving version that is still active within their mind. And the quantum field, like a neutral mirror, simply reflects back what it receives. Manifestation fails not from lack of desire, but from an excess of past. The old program keeps running in the background, silently sabotaging every attempt at change. Until that cycle is broken, no matter how hard you try, reality will always find a way to keep everything the same. But there is a turning point. When you realize you no longer need to carry yesterday's story into today, you begin to reverse the cycle, and the key lies in the next step. Understanding how directed focus energizes specific realities and activates or deactivates entire mental programs. Imagine reality as a dark room and your focus as a flashlight. Whatever you shine it on becomes visible, gains life, moves, and responds to your attention. Everything else remains dormant. The vast majority of people unconsciously shine their light on the same areas: lack, fear, frustration, scarcity, not because they want to, but because they were trained to pay attention to what is wrong instead of what is possible. Jacobo Grinberg taught that consciousness is the activating field of reality. The quantum field, where all possibilities coexist, responds to focus just as a seed responds to light. What receives energy grows. This means focus is not just a mental function, it is a creative force. Wherever you direct your energy, you bring into existence. If you wake up thinking of the same problems, replaying the same pains or worries, you are sending vital energy into those circuits. Your body begins producing the same chemicals, your emotions fall into the same vibrational pattern, and your perception adjusts to filter the world in ways that confirm that state. It's as if you become a magnet for repetition. The blind spot here is that unconscious focus feels natural. The conditioned mind believes it is simply observing what is real, but in truth, it is only reinforcing a mental construction. External reality is not the cause of what we feel. It is the reflection. When you change what you focus on, you change what appears. That's why true change always begins with a redirection of attention. It is not about ignoring problems, but about refusing to treat them as inevitable. When you learn to withdraw energy from the old story and begin energizing a new possibility, the field responds with synchronicities, ideas, encounters, and even internal shifts that were previously unavailable. This is why visualizations work. When done with emotional presence, they direct focus toward an invisible reality, activating brain circuits that match that experience as if it were already happening. The body reacts, the vibration changes, and the field responds. But be careful. Focus is not just about thinking differently, it is about feeling differently. The quantum field responds to coherence between thought, emotion, and intention. When you focus on what you want, but internally carry the certainty that it is not possible, you create a short circuit. Effective focus is vibrationally aligned with the experience you want to live. Right now, you can choose to keep energizing the old circuit, which only repeats, or to begin feeding a new reality with your conscious light. And it is at this very turning point that the next step emerges, meeting your quantum self, the version of you already living the reality you desire. In the quantum field, everything already exists. Every version of you, from the one stuck in old patterns to the one living in fullness, freedom, and power, already vibrates at different frequencies. What determines which one you experience? Your tuning. Grinberg explained that reality is shaped by the neuronal field, an invisible structure connecting consciousness and perception, filtering the world according to the vibrational pattern of the observer. When you think, feel, and act repetitively, you align with a specific version of reality. But when you shift your internal state, you also shift the timeline with which you resonate. This means you don't need to create your future. It already exists. What you need is to tune in to the version of you that is already living that future. That's the turning point. Realizing your higher self is not distant or unreachable, but simply waiting for your conscious attention. Think for a moment. How does the version of you who has already overcome the fears that paralyze you behave? How does the you who has already achieved what you long for act? What kinds of decisions does that version make? How do they walk? How do they think? What is their emotional frequency? When you begin to clearly imagine this version, you are connecting with it in the quantum field. And more than that, you start to activate the same neurological, emotional, and energetic circuits. Your brain interprets the image as real. Your body responds, your vibration adjusts, and the field around you begins to reorganize reality to match that new frequency. This process of connecting with your quantum self is not fantasy. It is the most strategic step in conscious manifestation because it shifts the center of power from the past to the creative present. The old story weakens, and a new identity begins to take shape, not through effort, but through vibrational affinity. And here lies the secret. You do not become this new version over time, but through choice. Every time you decide to act, think, and feel like that version, you strengthen its signal within you. And the stronger it becomes, the weaker the old circuit gets. This inner encounter is more than visualization. It is a transition of identity. You stop trying to create a new reality as someone who doesn't believe they deserve it, and begin living as someone who has already embodied it. The more you sustain this frequency, the more natural it becomes. The next step takes us to the most powerful moment of this entire journey, the transfer of power between you and your quantum self. The instant when the old identity dissolves and a new vibrational program installs itself within your field. There is a moment when everything changes. It is not when something outside you shifts, but when you transform so deeply within that the external world has no choice but to respond. This moment is the transfer of power, the point where your consciousness reconnects with your true identity and definitively reprograms the vibrational field shaping your reality. Most people try to change their lives without changing themselves. They want a new reality, but keep operating with the same thoughts, emotions, and habits. It's like trying to tune into a new radio station without changing the frequency. True manifestation doesn't happen because you desire something, but because you have become someone compatible with what you desire. The transfer of power happens when you stop operating as the old version, laden with fears, doubts, and limitations, and consciously assume the frequency of your quantum self. Not as a mere imaginative exercise, but as a real installation of a new identity program. This process involves mind, body, and energy. It all begins with the right internal state. The body needs to be in deep relaxation so that the conscious, analytical mind softens its grip, allowing direct access to the subconscious. It is in this moment, between wakefulness and sleep, or in meditative states, that the subconscious becomes receptive and new information can be implanted as vibrational commands. The key here is emotional coherence. Repeating affirmations or visualizations without emotion is like trying to turn on a lamp without electricity. What activates change is feeling. When you feel what you affirm as real, the body begins producing the chemistry of the new reality. The brain forms new synaptic connections, the energy field reorganizes, and the universe starts responding to the new signal. At this stage, it is as if your quantum self, the version of you already living the desired reality, becomes your mentor. It transfers to you its thought patterns, its energetic posture, its vision of the world. And this transfer is not symbolic. It is neural and vibrational reprogramming. Imagine that as you close your eyes, you meet this version of yourself. It approaches, placing one hand on your heart and the other on your forehead. In that instant, a current of light flows through your body. This light represents the new program, a vibrational system that communicates to the universe who you have become. The old stories dissolve, the ancient code is erased, and a new identity begins to operate quietly within you. This installation creates a new dominant pattern. Your reticular activating system, RAS, the brain's filter, begins seeking signals aligned with this new vibration. Your behavior changes, your decisions change, and naturally, your reality changes. But none of this can sustain itself unless the new frequency is consciously anchored in your daily life. And that is what we'll explore next. How to live from this new signal so that transformation becomes inevitable and permanent. Receiving the transfer of power is the point of activation. But it is anchoring that makes this new identity real, stable, and unshakable. Many people have powerful experiences in meditation, feel the vibration of their new self, touch the frequency of an extraordinary life, and days later, they are back operating from scarcity, doubt, and the old pattern. This happens because, even after an energetic shift, the physical world still reflects the previous signal for a while. And in that gap, the mind tries to pull you back into the familiar zone. It says, "See, nothing has changed. That was just imagination." But it wasn't. It was the birth of a new vibrational field, and now it needs to be fed with consistency. Anchoring begins with the daily decision to live as your new self. It is not about waiting for the new reality to appear in order to finally feel gratitude, power, or confidence. It is about acting, thinking, and feeling as someone already in that new timeline, even when nothing outside looks different yet. This is the bridge between the invisible and the tangible. Jacobo Grinberg explained that the neuronal field reorganizes through repetition of internal experience. In other words, the more often you access the state of being of your quantum self, the stronger that field becomes. And the stronger it gets, the easier it is to maintain the vibration even when facing old stimuli. This is vibrational neuroplasticity. You need to create activation rituals in your day. Upon waking, take a minute to remember who you are now. Breathe deeply and repeat, "My new signal is active. I am the source of my power." Visualize yourself making decisions with confidence, radiating presence, magnetizing everything you desire with ease. During the day, when challenges arise, and they will, pause and ask yourself, how would my higher self respond to this? That question interrupts the automatic circuit and forces your mind to operate from the new program. Over time, the response becomes instinctive. And at night before sleeping, once again enter a meditative state and visualize your quantum self giving thanks for the day. Feel that reality has already begun to shift. Anticipatory gratitude is a code that seals your vibration and transmits to the field the message, "This is already mine." Another crucial point in anchoring is the vibrational environment. Be mindful of the content you consume, the conversations you have, and the thoughts you allow. All of these either strengthen or weaken your new field. Surround yourself with messages, music, words, and people that reflect the identity you have chosen to sustain. When the new frequency becomes your starting point, and not just a temporary exception, reality begins to respond with synchronicity, flow, and unexpected opportunities. And this is precisely where the silent miracle happens. Manifestation stops being trial and becomes inevitable. In the next and final step, we will understand why, at this level of alignment, reality has no choice but to bend to your vibration. True manifestation is not effort or struggle. It is consequence, the consequence of a vibrational signal emitted with coherence, consistency, and consciousness. When you reach that state of alignment between thought, emotion, and identity, Reality resonates with you naturally and inevitably. Jacobo Grinberg maintained that reality is a projection of our mental field. This field does not merely interpret the world, it creates it. And what determines the shape of that creation is the dominant frequency you emit. That is why, when you change from within, the outer world must respond. It has no choice, it simply reflects. Imagine the quantum field as a neutral mirror that does not judge, filter, or hold opinions. It only replicates with precision the energy it receives. If you vibrate scarcity, insecurity, or fear, it reflects situations that confirm those emotions. But if you emit security, gratitude, and certainty, it reorganizes everything around you to validate that new internal state. At this point in the journey, doubt has no space left. You no longer need to wait to see if it will work. You know it works because you feel it vibrating in every cell of your body, and this inner certainty opens doors where once there were only walls. What seemed impossible begins to flow effortlessly. What once was a distant dream starts materializing in small signs, unexpected encounters, and invisible movements conspiring in your favor. Inevitable manifestation happens when you become the signal. It is no longer something you try to reach, but something you express. And the universe, as a reflection of your vibrational state, bends, adapts, and reshapes itself. Many call it luck, coincidence, or miracle. But you know it is none of those. It is vibrational science. It is energetic coherence. It is alignment with the version of you already living this reality, and that now has become your primary identity. This is the point where you stop trying to force the universe to give you something, and instead allow reality to mold itself to your new field. And the most extraordinary part is that the more you live this way, the easier it becomes. The effort fades, the struggle disappears, the urgency dissolves, because you are already where you wanted to be, in full alignment with the source of your power. Manifestation then becomes a byproduct of your being. You think, you feel, you act, and you receive, not because you are trying, but because it is inevitable that reality responds to your new frequency.